Why are so few women being groomed to be CEOs? If you think about companies should be embracing their VPs and SVPs that are women and nurturing them to be leaders in business. With 80% of consumer purchasing power being held by women, shouldn't that be mirrored in the CEO office? Women should be leading big companies. And one of the questions really is why? Why aren't women staying and sort of battling it out? And I think part of the reason is that word battle. It's a tough position to be CEO of a publicly held company. And we need to think about, and actually boards of directors and chairs need to be thinking about, how do we help women become CEOs in big companies in America?
Why is it not happening, Suzy? What's going wrong? What's going on here or going wrong here that so few women are in the C-suite, so few women relatively are on the boards of big companies?
Well, Indra answers that question herself often when she's asked, and she did it in a famous 2014 interview when she was asked in the Atlantic magazine, can women have it all? And she said, no, look, what I'm doing is incredibly hard. What every working mother, working wife is trying to do in corporate America is incredibly hard, and there's a lot of consequences to it. You miss a lot, and so she herself spoke openly about it. And it used to be, she's an icon to both me and to my HBS classmate Lisa, who you have there on set. Because she fought through those pain points. But what's happening now, Tyler, is that there's an off-ramp for women who want to be in business and want to have more control, and that's to go run their own thing. Right. It used to be you fought through the corporate hierarchy, and you had a lot of pain, and you gave up a lot, or you went home, and you didn't like that either, okay, because you missed working and you wanted to work. It was an either or. But now you can get off. So the number of women in the pipeline going up to the C-suite is actually contracting as there's more women in it because they're going elsewhere. Because if you're going to have pain, you might as well be able to control it somewhat, and you can do that more when you're an entrepreneur.
So, Suzy, you think this is more of a choice than actually something that companies are doing or are not doing? It's a choice of women saying, I don't want to fight through that hierarchy. I want to do my own thing and be an entrepreneur, and I can sort of win in that area of my life in that way.
I think more and more companies really want women to be rising up in the ranks, look, maybe even just for the optics of it, but also because women have proven that they're great and that they can deliver a lot of value. And as Lisa so wisely points out, that women have 80% of the purchasing power. So I think there's a desire in corporate America now, and so they're developing more women. The pipeline was not huge to begin with, right. But the fact is it's getting smaller because women are saying, forget it, I don't want what she's having. I want something else. If I'm going to have all the consequences that come with being a working mom or whatever, I'd rather be able to control it somewhat.
Lisa, do you agree with that? I mean, I'm struck when we look at the wall we've built here of the CEOs, the women CEOs who have left this year. They're all, except for maybe Marissa Mayer, of the same generation. Indra Nooyi, Meg Whitman, Irene Rosenfeld, Denise Morrison. There isn't a generation behind them. But to Suzy's point, maybe that generation isn't fighting the battle to climb the corporate ladder. They're going someplace else.
So if you think about it, Suzy and I graduated Harvard Business School 30 years ago. At that time, the biggest draw where people went was consulting and investment banking, and those really in the know went to private equity. So one of the questions is why, again, and these women and men went into those fields partly because wealth creation, and also because of the ability to break new ground. I think if you look at corporate America, it moves more slowly, and the ability for women to rise, the C-suite is still very male. There are only 3 companies with a woman that is CEO and chair of the board. Right. I'm sorry, there are only 3 companies where there are 2 women, a woman CEO and a woman chair of the board. So they're not, we all look to our own networks to bring people along, and those networks aren't women. So it's a hard choice to go into corporate America and feel that you have the ability and the opportunity to rise.
I mean, isn't part of... Go ahead, Suzy.
No, I was going to add that I agree with what you're saying, and the problem continues with the board. I was recently talking to the CEO of a large energy company, and he said, I can't recruit any women to high-level positions in my company, and we don't have very many in the energy industry, and I really want them, but I can't because they look at me and they say, there's no women on your board. So it goes all the way up. I mean, you want to go work at a company if you're an executive woman where there's somebody on the board who if you wanted to have a conversation with and wanted to relate to her, she's not there.
And I like to think that there are positive steps. I believe in the past year there have been more board nominations that are women, but we need to see it happening bigger, better, faster so that it can trickle down.
And is it a deficit of mentorship in part? In other words, do women not have patrons, whether they are female or male, within companies to bring them along and create the growth plan?
I see what you're saying. I believe that there is a great deal of mentorship, and I'll also say men and women mentoring women. So it isn't just having women, but there are pain points that I believe aren't being addressed for women to rise. And a lot of women, as Suzy said, are finding opportunities for wealth creation and elsewhere and making the decision that, you know what, the pain points are too big in corporate America, and I want them to address them first.
I agree. There is mentorship everywhere, and I think that men and women are stepping up to mentor, but it's hard, and those pain points are not being addressed.